Today is March 10th, Thursday. Drop in. I'm your host, Trevor Beck. If you've never been here before, we just kind of like just chat around, talk about what's new, and then we, spend some time answering questions. So 20 minutes is usually what I slot or allot for this. So let's get started. Google Meet has some new controls in there. So I'm just going to pop these up here. So a lot of times with faculty, if they're using Google Meet for their appointments, or sorry, for their teaching and that, in the past, you weren't able to have as much controls, like you could mute somebody, but that's about it. They've got these new controls here now. So down here in the bottom right, you can pull up these host controls. So you can now control whether or not someone can share their screen, whether the chat's going to be used, whether they can turn their microphones off, whether they can turn their video on. So that's different than before, where when they would join, you can mute them. This basically says, no, you can't even turn on your microphone. You don't have the option. So that's a nice kind of a feature in there. And then the quick access just means if you've got the link, you can join. Otherwise, if I turn that off, you have to be asked to be let in. So depending on whether you're just doing a meeting or whether you're doing a training session, you'll probably want to take some adjustments on those kind of controls. So that was the Google Meet stuff. The other thing that's nice is I found this extension called Google Meet Attendance List. Now, I've seen a whole bunch of add-ons and extensions that you can use for it, for Google Meets. We've seen in the past how we can do transcripts. So if I turn on my captioning, there's a plugin or an add-on that will grab all that text, throw it into a Google Doc, and then I have it there as reference afterwards. But the Google Meet attendance list has always been kind of wonky. You'd actually have to go in, and before you shut down, you would have to run plugins. There's no one here. Google Meet attendance list operates automatically. So when you stop the meeting, so not close the window like I just did, but when you stop the meeting, it will actually automatically display this screen here that shows you the information about your meeting, the time. You can export this, but then all the users. So when they first showed up and then how long they were in their call for. So that's really nice because it's automatic. As soon as I just hang up, bang, this thing pops up and I can just save that. And there is a dashboard later on that lists all of them in there, so you can easily go and check those out as well. So that's that plugin. I quite like that one. Google's also done an interesting move towards web documents as opposed to printed documents. So first of all, I'm just going to go over into here. One of the things they've done, if you go to the document outliner, so we've talked about in this the past, anytime that you use a heading 1, heading 2, and all that, it'll list it there, kind of like a table of contents that doesn't print, it's just there. But they've added this summary piece in there. So you can go in, add some comments about the summaries. One thing I really don't like about it is to find that summary. So here's for the technology drop-in today, I put a summary in. You actually have to open up the details and you have to scroll down to the bottom here. And there you go, you can see this summary. So it's supposed to be helpful for you to be able to, scan, because this is searchable as well. But you can put in there without opening the document, you can see what it's in there. But you have to manually do that summary and stuff. Personally, if I needed to look at something, I would actually go, go back to here. I would take a look at the details here, and I would just look at the screen and just go, okay, that's what's in the document. I can see that. So I'm not sure how helpful that summary is, but some people might find it. The other piece, though, that I find really interesting is they have moved forward with what's called pageless documents. So the days of having a footer and a header and a page break and that's when we printed documents. But I mean, I rarely print documents anymore. So why do we bother with that? If you go look at any other website, so CBC, CNN, whatever, you're constantly scrolling through the story. It's just one big long scroll. So why do we still have these page breaks in here? Well, so under File, if you go to Page Setup, there's an option here now called Pageless that does exactly that. It gets rid of the headers and footers. You can see here it gets rid of some of the columns, footnotes, and watermarks. So it just basically acts like one big long scrolling page. So if we take a look at this document now, we can see there's 2 pages in there. But now when I go in and switch this on, Page Setup, turn it on, and you can choose a color again, just like you can before. But now it's disappeared. The headers have disappeared. So there was a title up there in the header. It's now gone. But there's no page break. It's just like one big long web page. So as you're moving and creating documents for the web and being referenced and stuff, this might be something to do instead of having to put the headers and footers. Interestingly, if you are looking at Google Documents using the Google Docs app on your mobile device, it's showing you the mobile version, which is very similar to this. No headers and footers. It's just one big long scroll. Maybe the color of the background on the screen might be a little bit different, but other than that, it's doing pretty much the same thing. So they're just kind of moving more of the mobile to the desktop. So we'll see where that goes, because I mean, really, unless you're printing stuff, what's the point having those headers and footers in there? Oh, people chips and Google Sheets. So we've seen, let me go back in my document here. We've seen it in the document where I can go in, I can do an @ sign, and I can put in Nick or whoever. And if that information is in my contacts list, then it has this, they call it a chip. I'm just going to dismiss this for now. So if I put my cursor over there, I'm going to get all the information I have about Nick stored in Google Land. So this is in my Google contacts. I can do an email, I can do a chat, use a video call, create a calendar, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all in there. That's now just been moved into the spreadsheet. So I'm going to go into here and I am going to do the @ sign. And I'll just put in, well, we saw Jazz there, but I can just put in her email address. Whoops. Let me try this again. Make a liar out of me. Come on, let's try this again. There we are, Jazz the Poodle. So Jazz, you can see it's got a little bit of a gray. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. There's a little bit of gray outline to it. So that's one of those clips. And if I put my cursor over it, there's Jazz's information. But if I put my cursor over the name of someone who's not in my contacts list, all it says is, hey, you know what? You can send an email, you can do a video call, because it'll just send an invitation by email saying, hey, let's do a video call. And you can do a calendar invite. This information actually isn't stored anywhere in my contacts. It's just an email, but I can add that person as a contact by just clicking on there. So if you have a list of a bunch of email addresses, you can just quickly add them to your contact list just by going and clicking on there. So depending on what you're doing and with your lists and contact lists and stuff like that, that might actually be kind of handy to help. And the nice thing about it is it automatically builds in the ability to send an email, start a chat with them, do a calendar invite right from the spreadsheet. I don't have to go into the calendar or those other apps to do that. Creating Microsoft Word templates in SharePoint. I put an article of this up in the website, but I thought I would go over it with you because it's kind of cool stuff. So if you've used templates before in Microsoft Word, it's actually a special file type. And when you open it up, it just automatically kind of does a save as, and there's your file, a second copy of it. Unfortunately, that stuff is not supported yet in the web version here. I could go in, open the file up, open it up in the app, do a save as, that kind of stuff, but it's not the same. It's not, I have to do that all through the desktop app. So what we can do though is we can kind of fudge it a little bit. This is just a Word document in SharePoint. So I would go in, open this up. I would make all the different comments and stuff that I need. If you have to do styles like heading 1, heading 2, let's see if I got it to work in here. Heading 1. Oh, you're gonna make a liar out of me. Yes, you are. But if I go into my desktop app, I can put shortcuts in. So I have Control Option 1 will automatically do a heading 1. Control Option 2 will do a heading 2. So I would have to build those in my desktop app. Then what I want to do is I want to protect this document. And you can do this in a number of ways. They're all pretty much the same, whether it's the web or your desktop app. But if you go under File to Info, I can protect this document. All it's saying is the next time someone opens this file up, and I'll just do a refresh, open it up as view only. There we go. So now it's a view only. It should give me a link. There it is. OK. And then I would just tell my peeps, hey, could you, when you see this page, just do file save as. The problem I find if you just have a file there that anyone can edit and you go in and say, tell everyone do a save as, half the time they just start working directly into the template. And then everyone who opens up the template sees that person's work in there. Here we've just locked it down, just said it's view only. So as people come and access it, the only way to make changes is to do save as. And this will work from, even if I open this up in the desktop app, the same thing's going to happen. The document's been marked as view only. If I need to, I can go into editing here and I can make new changes and stuff like that. But the document's still protected in the sense that when you refresh it, it'll still be view only. And one thing also just to be aware of, you'll notice there's no logo up in here. The web version of Word doesn't show those items if you have them in your headers and footers. So if I was to go and open this up in the desktop app, it would appear. I didn't lose anything. It's just the way that the browser is working with this stuff right now. Quick comment. I'm just going to see what that was. The contacts in Outlook the same. Whoops. As Google. No. Google Land, Microsoft Land. Two different things. However, I'm hoping by next week, there is a way that we can, as you add new contacts into your Outlook, there is a way of a script that runs that I'll hopefully be showing you next week that will automatically copy into Google. So I used to use it for quite a while. So and we'll talk more about that next week. But yeah, the two are separate. I've asked for years to see if there's a way of putting that information into Google, but because the way all that information is stored, and it would mean that all the students' information would have to be in that database that Google uses, and the students would have access to ours. So they've said, no, we're not going to do that. But I will show you hopefully next week and how you can get it all set up. And then once you get the two of them running side by side, then anytime you make changes to Outlook, bang, it's automatically going to be updated in Google Land. Doing the view lockdown on our travel budget and rationale. Excellent. Good to see Mike. Ooh, last thing here, free Canadian DNS. So I haven't played around with this. So the DNS kind of stuff basically is protecting you from hackers and stuff like that. And so this is one that Canada has made available, and it's going to help with the scam blocking. It's going to protect your house. You can either configure it at the router level or at the different app level if you wanted to. So supposedly that gives you a more secure connection back and forth. I haven't looked a lot into this. This was actually one of some resource our security area has recommended. And I just kind of came across that. It kind of got buried, but I thought this is kind of cool. I think where I would see this becoming even more useful is if I was traveling and I was trying to do some banking. Even though the banking is secure, we got this secure piece up here, but it's not end-to-end encryption kind of thing. I would probably run this at the same time just to make sure that no one's sniffing around while I'm doing my banking and stuff. Even though the banking account is secure, that doesn't mean that people can't be seeing what's going on. So I would hope that, you know, Bank of Montreal, TD Bank, all stored in Canada, that would help secure that. All right, that's it for this week, guys. Questions?
I have a question, Trevor. It's
Sure.
Erin. With the Google Meets and hosting, do you know if that button has to be turned off, the one that allows people in without you admitting them when you create the meeting? Because I've had this trouble multiple times where I saw those controls, but then it doesn't seem to do anything and people still have to ask for permission to come in. But there doesn't seem to be an option in the meeting, set up the meeting kind of thing.
But you can join that meeting early, right? So I haven't played with that. Let's just try that out real quickly here. So if I go and create a new tab here, this is the new tab. Nice try, Trevor. So if I do meet.new, we'll open this up. Because Google does, like when you go into a meeting, Google doesn't ping everyone to say the meeting started like Teams does. It's just, you know, here's a link, join it when you want to. So if we go into here and I'm gonna, well, can't share the screen, come on. There we go. Can't turn on your microphone and quick access. So we'll change that. Now my computer is going slow, so let's refresh this the screen. So I'm going out of the meeting, then I'm going to come back in. So hopefully, in theory, yep, it holds it. So that's what you would have to do, is just go in ahead of time for your meeting and set that up.
Is there a way to do it, like if you have
As
a recurring meeting and it's already set up to change this? You think that it will change it permanently if I go back, like because the meeting's recurring?
Yeah, it should hold it in, because your recurring meeting is the same URL, right?
Yes, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be the same URL. So
okay.
it should hold that.
I'm going to try that. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
And if it changes, let me know.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Trevor, are most people using Google Meets versus Microsoft Teams? Like, which is the more popular?
Well, if you're faculty and staff, oh, sorry, let's back it up. If you are staff, Teams is the way to go. Teams Teams is the way. I mean, I'm a Google guy. I love Google, but Teams is the way to go. And the reason I say that is with Teams, like this recording, in the future, if I wanted to go back, I can go into this date. So today's date, whatever it is, there's going to be something in Microsoft Teams or in Outlook. If I go into Teams, it'll show me, here's a link to the recording. Here's a link to the transcript. Here's a link to any of the meeting notes that you created while you were doing that. Here's a link to all this stuff. And rather than having to go run around into different locations, like I just go into Teams. And when I say go into Teams, I mean, let me a second here. So there's my calendar here. But anytime we've had a meeting, all those resources are going to be right in here. So give me a sec, we'll finish loading this up. So there's my attendance. And because we've been running this for a number of times, because it's an ongoing thing, I should have, so there's my attendance for last week. There's all the attendance for all the meetings. So here's who came up, here's when they left, how long they stayed for, the transcripts. So everything that, like as we're recording now, there it is there. Those are all available, and they're with that one event. So I don't have to go searching for all that stuff. And you know, meeting notes are important and all that. If you really take advantage of it, it's a great tool. Google Meet is basically good for when we're dealing with students, because they are already in that land, right?
Right.
Now, some faculty, to be fair, some faculty working with the Center for Teaching and Learning, they are working and using Collaborate, which is part of oh God, what is it? Come on, did I see Troy? You know what I'm talking about. That tool faculty use for teaching, Blackboard. Oh my goodness. So those tools work together and stuff. And so a lot of faculty would like to use Blackboard. And I mean, and it does have some more advanced functions and stuff. But for quick videos and stuff like that, Google Meets is fine. But, you know, I mean, there's things that I prefer in Google Land, but Microsoft Teams just beats Google. I just think it's such a great tool. And if you're doing in faculty, the other side of it is all these resources that we're using are saved in Microsoft Land, and we back those up, so we have access. Any of the files that you create and save in Google, if you delete them after 30 days, they're gone. There's nothing we can do to bring them back.
Okay.
So that's the other thing.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, you bet.
Cool. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording then.